when you're hiring someone for a role where they don't need to be speaking to a lot of people. Well, that person isn't going to be the most interview like ready and prepared person.
Right. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined as always by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. EDJ, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about a quote.
Okay, let's hear it. Hopefully a really, really long quote.
No, it's super short.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Super short.
Okay.
Higher character, train skill, said by Peter Schutz.
Higher character, train skill. I love this idea. We actually shared this on our social media a couple weeks ago, and I noticed it probably got more engagement than anything else we've shared recently. It is such a basic concept, but there is so much in here.
I love when you can say things out loud and it's like to the point and like you didn't know you needed to say it, but you said it and you're like,
Yes.
it's so clear and it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it also is so obvious. You know, does that make sense? Like it's just so to the point.
It's interesting how you have things like that are so obvious, but then you look at how we act and how we do things, and we do things the exact opposite of this. When
Right.
you're reading your average job description, there is nothing about character in there. It is, can you do X, Y, and Z? Are
Right.
you good at these skill sets?
Here's
do you
the
have this
requirements.
experience? Right. There's nothing in there that says, hey, are you a good human being?
Yes.
Are you good to work with?
Are we gonna like hanging out with you all of the time?
Exactly. I was listening to a podcast with Simon Sinek, and he was interviewing a director at NASA, and they were talking about the key number one thing they look for when they are selecting astronauts is, are you nice? And I love that. Like, you're going to be trapped in this really tight space.
Yeah, we know the confinements of what you're about to go do.
And it's maybe the most stressful thing any human can ever experience is being in this tight environment with a lot of people where the outside world is trying to kill you at all times. That's highly stressful.
Yeah.
And everyone in there, by the way, probably is really good at what they do. There might be a little ego involved. And so they start with, are you nice? And I love that because I think about that in terms of hiring. Like, do we screen for that?
Yeah.
Do we try to say, are you nice? Are you a
or we
good
just write off
person?
that and make sure that you have all the skills that we need. Yeah.
Well, you see that all the time in especially in like sales environments. You got like your top salesman that's just killing it, and everyone hates them, and they create so much drama and so much chaos. But boy, they're hitting their numbers, so we're going to keep them around.
Yeah.
They don't then factor in the turnover and
Or
the
fact that like
stress.
everyone else is like completely burnt out and not doing the things they need to do because they're
That's what I'm
handling
talking
that
about.
one person.
Yes, yeah, because it then is having these negative effects on the other side that doesn't show up on the balance sheet, so they're
Yes.
not accounted for really.
Yeah.
And this is such a good thing on the front end to say, how do we do this well? Because like we're in the middle of hiring right now, and we're being very careful about it because we got a really good thing going on. We got a small team. We've got a great team. We love showing up every single day. The second that stops, we're in trouble.
Right.
Because a small team, if half the people hate showing up every day, we're kind of screwed.
Yes.
And so we're being very careful to say, not just do you know how to do these things, but who are you as a human being?
Yeah.
And are you going to click? And I think there's something to that. And I think part of it, and again, it goes to writing things down. I think step one is we got to kind of define what character we want. And I don't think most people are really good at that. As saying, who do I actually want to serve beside every single day? Because we're trying to build a team with trust, with really high trust. You kind of got to want to be in the room with the human being to build that
Right.
trust.
Well, it's the same thing as like anything you're looking for. Like we talk about when you're looking for a mentor, you write down
Yes.
those characteristics that you
Absolutely.
want. And figuring out what those are is sometimes easier for some people than others. But if you can like put words to it,
Yeah.
the same with hiring somebody. If you can
Yes.
put words to it and say, I think this is the person we're looking for to fit this
Yeah.
scenario. And then when they show up, you know that they're a good fit.
Yeah, yeah. That's and I think as we think about our definition of a healthy leader, that kind of guides us a little bit. Like we want somebody that's empathetic. We want somebody that's a good listener, good communicator.
Right.
I obviously want somebody that can deal with a lot of sarcasm. I want somebody that
Yeah,
can
if they
laugh.
couldn't,
and
I don't
take a
know if it
joke.
would go well.
Yeah, if they don't understand sarcasm, we are not going to get along very well.
Yes.
They're going to get offended instantly.
I'm also thinking about like the fact that this is kind of a timeline thing too. That doesn't mean that you hire them and within a week you have trained them to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Or that they fit perfectly the minute they step in the door. You know,
Yep.
there is some time to it too, and giving people time to settle and to
Yes.
be a part of the group. up to.
Well, and to fully understand the culture, because that's really kind of what you're looking for, is we want the character that's going to fit with the culture. Mm-hmm. And what is our culture and what does that mean? So you almost have to see how those two definitions line up.
Yeah.
Well, they have to have time to absorb that culture and to really understand it fully. Because it's one thing to sit in an interview. You know, when I was doing a recent interview, talked a lot about culture, about what we want to build and how we want to interact together. And it's going to take time to experience that and trust that that's true, because we can say it in an interview. That doesn't make it true.
Right.
You know, 1,000 companies we've worked with that have values on the wall, and they in no way live those values out. And
Right.
so for us, it's like, are we doing that? And we got to marry up that culture and give them time to kind of acclimate to it. So,
Well, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how the interview process can sometimes be a little backwards, because sometimes when you're hiring someone for a role where they don't need to be speaking to a lot of people, well, that person isn't going to be the most interview like ready and prepared person,
Right.
because they might not be the most outgoing.
Yeah,
and
that's
how you
fair.
kind of have to like tend your interview process to that too, and make sure you know who you're looking for, and making the interview is not always the place to get all of the
Yes.
information.
that is very fair. That's a good point. Leaders, let's talk next steps. Hire, character, train, skill. I think start by writing down what is that character you are looking for. Like, really describe it, and then really describe your culture and how are those two things going to fit together. Because I think we really have to understand, when we get somebody that is a high performer, high skill, but they don't have the character aspect and they don't interact well, they create chaos. They create drama everywhere they go. When you've got an entire team that fits together in a specific way and one part that doesn't, that's like having a car where you just take a part from a completely different car, shove it in the engine and hope it goes well. It's never going to go well. It's coming from the least mechanical guy on the planet, trust
Yeah,
me.
that's only a good
But
idea.
I know it's not going to go well. I know enough to know that. And so I think really think about that with your next hire. What is that character you're looking for? What is that culture you have? And how are those two things really going to marry up well together? I love that. If anybody wants to send us quotes, questions, anything they want us to cover on the Leader Lab, where do they send that to?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us on the socials, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, putting out content all the time about healthy leadership. Where do they find that?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner. Emily, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
John, Porchlight Productions, thank you for productioning. And thank you, dear listener, dear reader, dear viewer, for watching, for really consuming this content. It means the world to us that you would give us your time. Please rate us and review us on all the podcast apps, like and subscribe on YouTube, all the things we should ask you to do all the time, but we don't. Those things mean a lot to us. They really help us find a bigger audience. We will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.